One of the things I learned about in the Marine Corps is to be a servant leader. So I wanted to absolutely take care of my people. So when I look at what I bring to Brandywine today is take care of the resident, first and foremost.
My guest today is Bill Bertier, a retired U.S. Marine and a former business owner who understands operations from the field to national scale.
The number one consumer complaint every year is contractors. We take that pain. We have the experience. So we know what to look in a contractor. We know who to put in your house. And then we follow all the way along to make sure that it's taken care of, because we look at it's their home, it's where their kids are, it's where they wear their fuzzy slippers, it's where they're comfortable. We probably touch the resident more than any other group in the organization. Looking at maintenance as a profit center, not a cost center. We're not overhead. We actually take care of the residents. We can impact renewals quite a bit.
One metric you think really matters in the industry?
I still think resident experience is the one metric that really matters the most. One of the biggest ways you can quantify it is renewal rate. If the maintenance department's doing their thing, people are renewing. If you can minimize the, you didn't take care of me when I had an issue, that is impactful.
Welcome back to Inside the Vendor Network, an ever-Resi original series where we spotlight the operators, platforms, and partners shaping how the SFR and BTR industry actually works. This show is built for owners, operators, asset managers, and industry leaders who care about performance, systems, and long-term resident experience. If you're new here, welcome. And if you've been here before, thank you for being a part of this community. Before we jump in, make sure you've subscribed on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify. Subscribing helps us grow this platform and continue to bring you conversations that move the industry forward. Today's conversation reframes something most operators treat as overhead. That's maintenance. What if maintenance wasn't a cost center, but your strongest renewal strategy? My guest today is Bill Bertier, Vice President of Maintenance at Brandywine Homes USA, a retired U.S. Marine and a former business owner who understands operations from the field to national scale. A quick thank you today also to our sponsor, Palisade Wall Panel and Shower Systems, trusted across SFR and BTR portfolios for faster installs, cleaner turns, and long-term durability. Palisade helps operators protect NOI while improving the resident experience, and we're proud to partner with solutions that perform in the field. Bill, welcome to the show. I'm really glad you're here today. Let's get inside the vendor network.
Glad to be here.
Good. So you are in Atlanta. I drove down to Atlanta today, so I have a beautiful hotel background, but I am in your city.
Yep. And you picked a great day too. Finally got the great weather. A little cold, but a lot of nice weather right now. A few days ago, pouring rain. It was probably a little rougher. So you picked a good one.
I'm never a fan of driving in Atlanta traffic, but what I know about Atlanta is this is the Mecca. I mean, this is the city. If you're an SFR BTR, this is the city for SFR. So before we get in, what I like to do in each of my shows is, you're bigger than your title. You're bigger than the organization that that you work for now with Brandywine, which is an amazing organization. But what I like the audience to do is get to know you. Many people in the audience, there's one of you and many of us vendors out in the industry. Believe me, we know who you are. But I want them to really get to know who you are. So before we talk about systems and maintenance and scale, I want the people to understand the person behind the leadership. So for everyone listening who doesn't know you yet, who is Bill with Brandywine Maintenance?
Well, I guess probably the easiest way to start. I grew up in Alaska, so I'm a West Coast kid. When I say grew up, I mean we homesteaded, we cleared our own land, built our own house. It's kind of where I got my roots out there.
Wow.
And it was a great place to be from. Haines, Alaska, wonderful community, very tight knit, very close family. very loving family. So really, really strong values. Started off as a kid, and then I knew that I wanted to serve my country early on, and joined the Marine Corps when I was still in high school, in the late entry program, and joined the Marine Corps. Served in Guam, served in Desert Storm as a combat veteran, and a few other places along the way. And that's really where I started cutting my teeth in leadership, was in the Marine Corps, where I first got my leadership skills. And it started off, pretty young, 19 years old, 20 years old, 22, 23, and then kind of went from there. But having grown up in Alaska, love it. But I went to school in Florida because I had enough snow. I'm a West Coast kid. I have a lot of family in California. Matter of fact, that's where Dad took us from, Southern California, threw us in the car, drove us to Alaska, and that's where I grew up. But I had enough of snow, so went to Florida for college, and then the next largest city up is Atlanta, and basically been here ever since. It snows north of here, so I pretty much stay in Atlanta. I love it. This Atlanta's been home. I've been here since '93, and don't plan on leaving. It's just a wonderful place. Great people, great, very strong community. So, and lots of opportunity here as well.
Well, first and foremost, thank you for your service, serving our country, allowing us all to have freedom, right? And so I thank you for your service personally, from my family to yours. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
So 20-year Army brat here, you and I have had some discussions. I also wanted to give you an update. My son finally just got, I won't say finally if he's listening, but he just got his private pilot's license last week. So those of you in the audience that don't know, but Bill has been in aviation, and you went to Embry-Riddle, right?
I did go to Embry-Riddle. Went to Embry-Riddle in the University of Florida. So
Yeah.
that's always wanted to be a pilot, and I was in construction since I was little, and I've had that experience. So I said we built our own house, cleared our own land, and seriously hammering the nails in the floor of my bedroom kind of thing, building our house, and lots of experience since then. But I always wanted to be in aviation. My father worked for Douglas before it was McDonnell Douglas, worked in the A4 platform, and my brother works in aviation. So long background in aviation. And then when I went to school, I loved to fly a pilot, and it was just amazing. My favorite planes, though, flying were the PT-17 Stearman or the Super Cub, something that's very stripped down version, fly by the seat of your pants kind of flying. Not enjoy being a commercial pilot. It wasn't what I wanted to fly for. I'd rather, and if you're an aviation buff, you'll understand, step on the string, as opposed to flying, looking at my instruments in my head in the cockpit all the time.
Sure.
So I went back to my roots right after college. I went back to my roots, went back into construction management. When I got to Atlanta, my first job here was swinging a hammer, and absolutely loved it. And for years, swung a hammer. Then just kind of went into a management track here in Atlanta, and I really enjoyed that. And then got recruited into another business that eventually was purchased by Home Depot. So that was my first real taste of the entrepreneurship that you and I have talked about in previous conversations. That was my first real startup, and I really enjoyed it. Kind of cut my teeth in there. Found out that I could write a little bit. Wrote a job process. I could put pricing models together. I could recruit, hire, train vendors. It was a really good experience, especially as young in my career. And that business was actually bought by Home Depot after 5 years.
Well, congratulations. That's a win, because that is not the way most entrepreneurial stories go. I know when I was building the last organization that I worked at, I was doing some study. I had actually a business coach who was coaching me, and I'm real tough on myself. And I think you are too. You and I have had enough conversations. Like, we are our worst critics. We're going to be harder on ourselves than anyone will ever be. As an entrepreneur, you've got other people's lives on your shoulders, right? Your decisions impact other people's lives, not just the P&L. And so, there's sleepless nights, um, thinking about how are you going to keep it all together? How are you going to make good on the promises? But entrepreneurship, less than 1% of small to medium businesses ever exceed $1 million in revenue. And my business coach had told me that number, and I was like, wow, because I was over here, I think at that time, maybe had grown our company to 6-7 million, and it was peanuts in my mind. And I think in this world, you don't realize that it doesn't matter the revenue, it's the solid scale that a business can scale at, right? And what you said is writing processes, attracting talent. Those are the foundations. Finding vendors and developing relationships is what we're going to get into a little bit more here, because that really, and combined with some discipline, right? And it sounds like you had to be disciplined in Alaska, right? Like that's life or death. And then in the Marines, I mean, it's do or die.
So it's interesting. The entrepreneurship. I look at entrepreneurial spirit as not everybody has it in spades. Everybody has some, but you have to be willing to go big. You have to be willing to have that discipline and understand that everything you do matters. Everything, good and bad.
Good and
You
bad.
can make great decisions and see some really big successes, and then you can make some not so great decisions, and it can get really tough. And you need to be able to minimize the failures, and expand on the successes. And I think it's hard to do at times. I could see why people would get such, because there's some very high highs and there's some very low lows.
That's right. Yeah, and you've got to be able to stomach that. I mean, so Nate, we're going back to him passing his check ride. He failed the first time. And it was it was over something. I have a rule, right? As a parent is, and what that I've put on myself is control the things you can control.
Mhm.
And then say la vie to the things that you can't. Because those are the things that a lot of times you can get bogged down in worrying about things you cannot control. Control the things you can control. And his logbook was one of those things that held the check ride instructor from giving him his license the first time, that you can control. His emotions, and he was extremely nervous. You can't always control that. You can get experience and you learn to control those things, right? So I was actually happy that he failed the first time, because sometimes we fail forward too, right? And it humbles us.
Yeah, failure is a good teacher, right?
It really
If you're introspective and you want to go back and you want to understand why you failed and how can you improve, and looking at continuous process improvement, you look at some of the lean guidelines, and that continuous process improvement, and looking back and self introspection and looking at your team and how to become better. Failures can be a great motivator. It can be a great teacher. I don't like to fail, so it's a huge motivator for me. So, but when I do fail, I'm not afraid of failure. I'm willing to go out there. I'm willing to try, but I'm also willing to give it my all so that I don't fail.
right.
Because you don't want to set yourself up to fail so you can learn. You want to try to set yourself up to succeed. But if you fail, learn from it and then try again. Go out there and dust yourself off and go for it.
So what did being the person responsible, signing the checks at the end of the week, teach you about operations that you apply today at Brandywine?
Well, I guess a couple of things. One of the things I learned when I was in the Marine Corps is to be a servant leader. So I wanted to absolutely take care of my people. Sometimes to the detriment of myself. I want to make sure that I was getting started. Money's a little tighter. So my paycheck was less than some of my guys' paycheck as I was getting going. So, but I wanted to drive the business. I wanted to make sure that they were taken care of, that my residents were taken care of. At that time, as my customers were taken care of, knowing that if I did those things and I did those well, I would be able to grow my business. So I could take a little pain now for long-term success. So when I look at, what I bring to Brandywine today is I want to have that same type of servant leadership, that I want to instill that in my people as well. Um, Take care of the resident first and foremost. So as we look at, we want to take care of the resident. We want to take care of the property. We want to take care of people at Brandywine, to include our vendors, and we want to take care of our ownership group and our JV partners. We absolutely want to take care of all of those things. But if we lean towards the resident, we make sure that they are taken care of, and that the impact of whatever issues there is minimized as best we can. Some things we can't solve everything. I can't solve everything as fast as I would like to a lot of times, but we do everything we can with that intent. A lot of the other stuff will fall in line. We want to make sure that we do take care of ourselves as well along the way, but resident first and my people first.
Yeah. I mean, like a good airline pilot says, you got to put your oxygen mask on before you can ever help anyone. Great.
Yes, that's
We'd
true.
have a lot of aviation analogies, but
I see that.
I love it. I'm getting real good at them. So now that you're the vice president of maintenance at Brandywine Homes USA, explain who is Brandywine and what markets do you serve, if there happens to be an audience member that doesn't know who Brandywine is.
Sure. I guess the easiest way to put it is, something you'd see on the LinkedIn profile, and it's the elevator pitch, right? We're a fully integrated property management company. We've got homes in 11 markets, from basically Kansas City, Indianapolis to Dallas, over through Atlanta, and then up through Florida and up through the Carolinas is basically our footprint today. So a very large footprint. And we do it all. We handle all the way through leasing, all the way through the maintenance and the renewals and the renovations. So when I say fully integrated, I mean fully integrated.
Sure.
Great. It's a great company with a very strong leader in Jackie Lee, who is probably everybody knows her in the industry. She's definitely our leader. She's extremely strong. She is our North Star. She's our, kind of where we point to. She keeps us pointing in a specific direction. And she's actually one of the reasons why I came to Brandywine. We do leasing, renovations, and maintenance services with, basically a focus on the residential experience. We want the resident to have the best experience possible.
Yes, I believe that she's an amazing leader. I've been able to sit on the board with her for the NRHC with women in SFR. So she's about diversity and inclusion. She is about lifting others up. I've, sat next to her at dinner and broke bread. Like she's just a good, down to earth, humble leader. Talk about servant leadership. She is what I've looked up to. She's mentored me. I've turned to her for advice during different times as a vendor. On the vendor side, as a vendor, you have access to her. And I think that's so amazing of a CEO, also being female in this space in a predominantly male driven industry. It's definitely changing now. There's a lot of rising women in this industry, but she's been here paving roads in a sense for the industry, for women in this space, and her team specifically. I've seen her on, Philanthropic with Brandywine Cares. She'll get behind something, but she also she's not a yes girl. If she's not behind something, she's going to tell you too. And she seems to be a pretty hands-off leader in sense of creating environments and cultures of autonomy and getting out of your way and letting you do what she hired you to do. And I love that when you meet true leaders like that.
Yeah, but, it's the open door policy that she has. If there's any questions, we can go and we ask. It's collaborative in that regard. If you don't always have to have the answer, I can ask the questions and we can collectively come up with that answer. And then we walk out of that room and then we just go execute the vision. Sure. But she also takes that collaboration, goes both ways. We can all talk about it. We can all come up with a solution. It's not, authoritarian and, dictatorial. And I like that. I like to carry that down to my people as well. I want them to do the same thing with their folks, the people that report to them as well, is ask the question. Maybe, you don't have to always be the smartest person in the room. Sometimes somebody else can have a great idea. And that's how we get better. It's how you continue to learn. As advanced in my career as I am further down the road, a little long in the tooth, if you want to say that. I'm always learning stuff from my folks, and it could be 2 or 3 people down the line. You're like, "Oh, I hadn't thought of that. That's a great idea.
Great
Let's figure
idea.
out how to implement that. Let's go." It was the same type of leadership that I got to enjoy when I was young in my career, is I could be that voice, screaming up from down below saying, "Hey, let's try this." And I'd like to see that in my people. I look for that in the people that we hire. I also look for that in our vendor network. I want our vendors to be the experts. I'm looking for someone that's not just out there trying to get a paycheck, that wants the partnership, that wants to make things better, that wants to speak up and say, "Hey, I think we could do this a little bit better," or um, "This is what I expect when we go out to a house." And I want that vendor to look at it and go, "Great, this is what you're looking for. If we did these 2 things just a little different, I think you could have a better experience." Collaborate, agree on the price, especially when you're working with the vendor network, then execute. And knock it out of the park.
Yeah, and like, why do we do things this way? Because you might not know why. There could be a logical reason behind it. So maintenance, for the audience members, um, who don't know, I'm assuming everyone does in our audience, but maintenance is when a resident is occupied by a resident, and the home, or not sometimes. However, most of the time, over the maintenance division, is you've got a resident and they have traded their hard-earned money in a form of lease, and this is their home. Um, this is where they're nurturing their families. They send their kids off to kindergarten or college. Um, and there's a huge population that choose to rent, and they decorate this home just like anyone that owns their home. This is their home. And maintenance, to me, whenever, as a vendor, we went into an occupied home, into someone's home, it was such an opportunity to really wow your customer. And as a vendor, we acted as an extension of Brandywine. We're representing Brandywine and had a lot of influence on whether your resident had good experience or bad experience. But maintenance is truly infrastructure, right? Like, it is not, I always used to say that this is not an overhead. This is an opportunity. There's infrastructure involved. What do you think most people misunderstand about the impact on the business?
Um, I mean, we probably touch the resident more than any other group in the organization. Leasing spends a lot of time with them up front, does a fantastic job. Operations touches them when it comes to payments or some questions along the way. But we typically are in the residents' homes quite often. And it could be for little things, if we're just helping them figure stuff out, or even sometimes there's catastrophic losses, and then we really have to spend time with them. But looking at maintenance as a profit center, not a cost center. We're not overhead. We actually take care of the residents. We can impact renewals quite a bit. And there's a marketing component that's related to maintenance too. If you look at Brandywine, we have techs. We've got W-2 employees that are in there. They are branded. They're wearing Brandywine shirts, hats, and they're driving a Brandywine van, wearing a Brandywine name tag and lanyard.
Yep.
So they know that it's Brandywine when you walk in the door. And we make sure that the residents are taken care of. They ask the questions along the way. Is there anything else we can do while we're here? And they know that they are here to help. Matter of fact, we think that that's so important, that resident experience is so important. We actually align our pay structures along those lines to make sure that the residents are taken care of, and the better our techs take care of our residents, the more they can get paid. And yeah. It's an important thing, and it's not just going in there and checking the box and going and doing as many and as fast as you can get to it, but actually making sure that you get to the root cause, fix what the real issue is, make sure that you impact the resident as little as possible on the bad side, and make it as much positive experience as you possibly can.
Sure, it's a earn it and deserve it comp plan, right? And
Mhm.
it's tied to your brand. And when
Absolutely.
you say it's marketing, maintenance is marketing, essentially, it is. It is the direct impact to your brand experience. Leasing, if I say they're selling them the sizzle and then maintenance comes in and the steak is not sizzling or it's, overcooked, undercooked. I know you love a good steak. I love a good steak. No one likes to be sold all the sizzle and no steak. So this is a brand experience. And I just had someone come in my house the other day. I own my home, but I had a window. My landscaper kicked up a rock, um, and it just, put a little hole in the window. So I had someone come in, and it was really interesting. It'd been a long time because my house is fairly new, so I really haven't had one in my home. And he came in, and um, he didn't have any branded gear on. I wasn't sure who the fellow was coming to my house. He was decent. He didn't look crazy or anything, but he, had on a brown Carhartt and a flannel shirt and some good work pants. So I quickly identified who he was and why he was there because I knew somebody was coming. But the experience, I felt a little uncomfortable because I was like, who is this guy? So I think you just pointed out something that sometimes we take for granted. Like, you don't know who's coming to your door. And in today's day and age, it could be, Amazon. It could be so many things coming to your door to door salesperson. So just those little touches,
Mhm.
uh, with them intermingling with your brand or experiencing your brand, a smile on your face when they open the door and
Mhm.
say, "Hey, I'm, Jake from State Farm." You know who he is.
We have fantastic vendor partners, and we look at them as absolute partners of ours. And they take care of our residents just like it was their own customer in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
There is nothing like having a Brandywine employee to walk in there with their name badge on in the Brandywine van, having the equipment that they carry in the van with them to try to get things done as quick as possible. We think there's absolutely nothing that can improve upon that part of it. Like I said, great vendors. They do a fantastic job. They do some of the things that they're just specifically experts on. But having that person, that actually the W-2 employee there, is critical for us, and I think it's critical for our success in the future.
Yes, I do too. I mean, uh, by being a vendor, right? Most of the time, when we came in, my background was in flooring. When we came in, there was usually something, it's not always just a transition strip that was popped up. A lot of times a dishwasher leak or there was some sort of water that impacted the floor most of the time if we were going into a maintenance occupied. And, we would there was a set of installers that we worked with them specifically, went into maintenance occupied. And then we had a set of installers we would never put into an maintenance occupied. And it's not that one is good or better and different. It's just some strengths are better than others, right? And just do better and are wired to do better. Some of my greatest installers, from a skill set and just great guys, just don't like doing that kind of work. And so it's always important to marry up the right vendor with the right job type. And I think that's so important for vendors listening is understanding that there's not a cookie cutter answer when you're putting, some of your team into these homes. Aligning the right person in the home is very, very key. And I think the successful vendors understand that and know that.
It's hard. Like I said, as I started my career, I was swinging the hammer, and sometimes it was occupied, and sometimes it wasn't. And not all great technicians are great communicators. And so you need to have that balance of both. You need to be a great technician, um, and a pretty good communicator, or in a lot of cases, you can partner two people together. One is a fantastic technician, one's a good technician, but he's a great communicator. Have those two run as a team together. It works like a champ, and that um, when we look at the resident experience, that matters. Just because you check the box and you got the work done, but if you upset the resident, I can't have you on our projects anymore. You may be the best HVAC technician in the country or flooring technician in the country, but I simply can't have you because you now become a liability because my residents are having a poor experience.
Sure. And every time we used to always say too, like every time we walked into the home, we want to minimize how many times we were going into a home, right? Because sometimes, I mean, you get dispatched to potentially assess and triage what's happening. I think as technology, I think the entire industry right now is looking at technology plays to, um, you know, visually reach into the truck with inventory to know what your maintenance techs have before you dispatch them out. I mean, I've seen some really sexy tech coming down the line that can look at inventory within a tech's truck and schedule it knowing that a fan part, there might be only 4 parts on a fan that squeak. Let's make sure that maintenance tech has those 4 parts just in case to minimize how many times we're going into a home. I heard that. I saw that in action just recently, and I was just like, oh my gosh. That's how good this industry is getting at that's how focused this industry is at improving the resident experience. The more times we can minimize going into someone's home to repair something, um, my mind is blown. What are you seeing that's kind of sexy like that out in the space right now? What are you guys
I'm not going to share too terribly much, but I will say watch this space because we launched something today that we think is very exciting with some good success. We've been working on it for a while, but I will say back to the van, having the material in the van. We absolutely think that's critical. We launched our vans last year, fully wrapped, Brandywine logoed. Built the inside of the vans. We designed the vans the way we wanted them on the inside, with different types. We have a general van, a plumbing van, an HVAC van, with a good group of products that are in there. The most commonly used items, and then the plumbing van. There's more plumbing items, specialty plumbing. The HVAC van has more HVAC stuff in there, and then we're continuing to improve that mix. We look at it quarterly. We do inventories monthly just to make sure that we've got what's in there, what's being used. And right now now that we've fast forward a few months of having these vans rolling, it's looking at stock. How fast can we turn over the inventory inside of there? What does our inventory profile need to be? And we're working with great material vendor partners right now. We have an RFP that's rolling out shortly to actually look at expanding our vendor network
great?
because we want the best products out there. If we can limit the amount of windshield time that we have, we can get to more residents and we can do more good work with residents out there. There's always going to be stuff that our vendor network's going to have to do, and I absolutely love them. We have,
Sure.
there's a catastrophic water loss. We have vendors that are general contractors go out there and they're going to build stuff back for us, and this is stuff that could take a few days to a few weeks to build. Like big catastrophic loss in some of these homes, which we never want to have, but you need to prepare for it. We have great vendor partners for that. Or emergency after hours calls. We have some great vendors that take calls at 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night, 1 o'clock in the morning. We'll get out there and go ahead and take care of our residents. And we absolutely love our vendors for doing that stuff.
Yeah.
I don't have the tech profiles to do that today. And that's why another reason why we have vendors, or just work we don't do. We have roofers, we have tree climbers, we
Sure.
have vendors that do all kinds of different trades and specialty trades that and they're fantastic. We absolutely love them. But when we can, we like to use our techs. Think about a HVAC tech or a plumbing tech. If they don't have to go out and just turn a knob, for the $75 or whatever the number happens to be to go out there for a trip charge, or $50 for a trip charge, whatever your trip charges happen to be. It's better for them. They want to go out there and do the other projects, the larger projects where they can make a little bit of money, as opposed to that windshield time. If they're driving an hour and a half there, 5 minutes of work, driving an hour and a half back, it makes it tough on them. Well, I've got a tech that can do that work and can do a myriad of work too. We can look at filters, and we could look at light bulbs and batteries and other things that we can change and things that we can do to really impact, or we can go to the house next door. So we look at that, the impact that our techs have, and it's been very positive.
Well, and I think there's something to be said about sending in one of your texts. Now, we used to have a saying, if you see it, say it. But not all vendors, not everyone feels empowered, or they may not want to say something, right? But if we went into a home and we saw something that didn't look right, or, could be problematic, or make the house not safe or clean or functional, right?
Mhm.
Those were the things that, if you see it, say it, like bring it up. Let's bring it back to Brandywine and let them know. And put it in their wheelhouse. I think your techs are going to be more inclined to do that because it's their home, right? So they've got the bandwidth. If my background was flooring, we're going in, we're head down looking at flooring. But oh, by the way, there was a cabinet door off. Your tech might say, "Oh, I noticed your cabinet door is off." My flooring vendor isn't going to say, "I noticed your cabinet door is off." We're not cabinet people. So I think you can have a more holistic approach to really servicing the customer with in-house techs as well. So,
I mean, absolutely. If I send a plumber out because we have a stain on the ceiling and it becomes an HVAC leak, okay, so the plumber's not actually taking care of that. Now I got to send another vendor out. There's ways that we could try and minimize that with triage, at least 2, and then I've got to send somebody out there to take care of the ceiling. But if I have that HVAC tech on staff that can do the general maintenance, can do some mitigation work depending on the size of it, they can take care of it while they're there. They can take care of it one trip, or maybe just a follow-up trip. I mean, we can really impact that resident experience.
100%.
And that's what we're really, that's one of the things that we're really trying to just expand and grow and figure out how we can be more present in some of our communities as well. So if I have somebody that this is basically their community, they're going to do all the work orders. It's pretty powerful when you're there and you're walking with one of your techs and you're having a conversation and somebody honks their horn as they're driving by and they wave and they're like, "Hey Troy, how are you? Good."
No, Troy.
And you're like, and they're shooting the fingers at each other and saying hi and having a good time. That's impactful. That shows that, we're in the community, that we care, that we're just as much part of your community as you are that are living there. And that's pretty impactful.
Yeah, same thing in multifamily. I lived in an apartment, and I knew my maintenance guy, and I'd see him every morning. He'd be walking the property, and I knew he was there, and would take care of something if it broke. My HVAC went out a lot in that apartment. It was just an old unit, and it was what it was, and they did the best they could to service. And at turn, I think they replaced that unit. But maintenance resident trust at Renewal, they don't know Troy just because he's been in their home fixing things. They know Troy because he's in the community. I want to land that plane, really, because they see the truck, they know him, they wave. He has a personality when he is there, when he was in their home, and he took good care of them, and did it with a smile on his face and a good attitude. Because I also think that windshield time, I think most maintenance techs don't like the windshield time either. They're skilled tradesmen and they like doing what they do. And if they have to keep going back and forth because they're not equipped and the company's not listening, like, "Hey, I need to have these parts on my truck or those parts on my truck," or, hey, it sounds like you're the type of leader that's listening to your guys so they feel empowered. Job joy of your maintenance techs is going to change the brand and the experience of the resident. If they don't like their jobs because they're spending time running around in the truck all the time versus actually accomplishing and fixing things, that drives culture within an organization. And we've all experienced what bad culture looks like from an employee who maybe doesn't feel empowered in their job, whether it be at a restaurant, a grocery store, or in this case, a leasing environment. So you guys also do third party management. And I think that's a big deal if we're talking, right? So
Mm-hmm.
Cogman,
We leverage our full platform across the third party management too. So it'll be the full Brandywine experience. Whether it's one of our private JVs or it's a third party, you can still have that same tech experience. It's still a Brandywine logo. It's still Brandywine everything. As far as the residents concerned, as soon as they log into their portal, Brandywine's taking care of everything for them. It's impactful. I mean, it really, I just keep saying that word, but it really is when you see it and you see the Brandywine logo, they know who we are and they know who we are in the community. And it's a big deal.
brand is key. I mean, it drives everything. The brand that we created as a flooring vendor was, we used to have some fun saying, so fast their head spins is what we would say. You know, give, right? Like do the right thing in every moment, like give, like sure, there's the business side of things, like getting a change order, but stay mindful of the resident experience and it will work out in the end. You know, sometimes new vendors in the space, they're worried about like what they can do or not do. And there's processes we all have to follow. But as vendors, as you're listening, you know, you're never err on the side of caution, take care of the resident. Never you're going to call a Bill or anyone in the maintenance teams or on Jackie's team in general when it comes to field services, who's ever going to say, well, you should have called and gotten approval on this or that. Sure, there's processes and there's approvals needed on certain things, but resident, when you err on the side of caution, and that is take care of the resident, you're probably going to err correctly by taking care of the resident.
There are absolutely times where I get the phone call, I need an on-site approval to do X. And, we could go back and forth of whether that's price is right or wrong. That's the last place I want to have that conversation. They're sitting in somebody's house, right? And that's we will work it out. I'm going to go ahead and approve this part of this. I need you to take care of this, and we can argue about it a little bit later on if we need to. More often than not, though, if you've hired the right vendors and you've fostered the partnership and you have the communication that goes back and forth, and that's once again, it's that kind of servant leadership piece, and you just want to go and you have an understanding and work with them and talk with them, you can get to a really quick resolution while they're standing there. But you got to have the right vendor, which means you have to have fostered that relationship. You'd have to have hired them, put everything in place, had the talks with them before. If it's the first time you're having a conversation with them, it becomes a very difficult conversation. So for the vendors and for the operators out there, don't let the hard conversation be your first conversation with your vendor.
Right.
You should always try to call and introduce yourself, at least say hey or send stuff out. And I've done that where I've had the hard conversation as my first conversation, through they're either new or whatever reason, or coming on to Brandywine, which will be a year here next month. When I first came on, it was hard. Talk to some of these vendors who've probably been here for 7+ years. I'm like, you guys are doing great. However, we're going to kind of tweak some things, and you don't want to start that conversation off, like I said, the hard conversation without at least the introduction. So.
Sure. Well, in the experience, I think that's the big thing. If there are owner operators out there considering on turning their portfolio over to a third party manager, this is the advantage of working with a Brandywine Homes, because you've got the experience. And let's face it, you and your team and Chris Carroll and the field services on the turn side as well is an acquisition side. Sure, there's some things that you see every once in a while. You're like, wow, hadn't seen that before. You're always going to have that in space. But for the most part, you guys have seen it. You're experienced operators. You know what to look for. And I think that's what, if you are considering having a third party manager properties, looking for experience, field service, leadership within an organization, that's essentially the deliverable that you're buying.
Yeah, and if you think about some of the third party people that are out there, it's you may be really good at acquisitions. You can find the perfect house, and you think you can put the numbers together. You put the pro forma together, and it looks fantastic. Or you can lease it up great. Or you're a great communicator. You don't have everything. So one thing that we do is we have experts at every one of those roles in this company. You mentioned Chris Carroll. He's got 30 more years experience in construction, just like I do.
Correct.
JJ, Jonathan James that's here that has, decades of experience in operations in property management as well. Jackie, we've got fantastic leasing agents. And you think about just from, the maintenance or the construction side, just, strictly looking inward, the number one consumer complaint every year is contractors. For others, and some of it can be they don't understand or the contractors are not great communicators. There are, not some great ones out there. There's some bad ones as well. But we take that pain. We have the experience. So we know what to look in a contractor. We know who to put in your house. We know what to do. And then we follow all the way along to make sure that it's taken care of. Because, and I keep saying your house, because that's the way we look at our residents. It's their home, right?
It is their home.
We know who owns it. We know, who the actual property owner is. But that's what we look at. It's their home. It's where their kids are. It's where they wear their fuzzy slippers. It's where they're comfortable. We really want it to, think about that in those respects. But we take all that pain. We have the experience. It's why some people rent today is they don't want to deal with that.
They don't.
They absolutely, they don't want to, they don't have the will for it. They don't have the experience in it. They're moving somewhere new. So they don't have their vendor network that they used to have in Cleveland and Atlanta. So I don't know who to call. Let me go ahead and rent. These people seem great. And then we go ahead and take care of it all for them. It's a great program.
And when you're working with an operator like you guys, you've really nurtured those relationships. You are sourcing vendors, but you have your key vendors that you have invested the time. I mean, getting into knowing them. You reminded me of another saying around communication. It was communicate your balls off. That was
yeah.
I mean, I didn't say it but it was,
I talk about to my team. It's like bad news is not like fine wine and cheese. It's not going to get better with age.
Yeah.
Get it out there. Communicate. Yeah. Have that conversation with the resident because if you wait a couple hours or wait a couple of days, it's not going to be any better. People don't fill in the gaps with happy thoughts. They fill in, oh my God, everything's doom and gloom at this point. But if you go ahead and communicate and tell them, hey, we're on this. We're trying. I'm waiting on a vendor to, and then whatever you say you're going to do, make sure that you
do it.
I'm going to call you back in 2 hours. Even if you call them back in 2 hours saying, I don't have anything to say because I haven't heard back from the vendor right now. We're waiting to get something.
We're waiting to hear from so-and-so. I'm still on it. Yeah, that. And then photos, right? A good photograph will speak a lot of and don't do the one real up close. Maybe give me one up close. Give me one far away. Know how to take photographs and send them. Don't make it look like you took it with a potato, right? I've seen photos and experienced operators like yourself can look at a photo from someone at a home and I can zoom in and see quarter round, cut with someone's teeth. I'm just trained to look for those things. So I think communication is not just picking up the phone and talking. It's communicating through got it, thumbs up, I'm on it, give me 20 minutes, 20 minutes goes by, circle back like, never heard from that guy. Wonder what happened.
Mhm.
Oh, I did it. We used to tell our team, take the win, right? Take the win. Like if you pull something off, communicate and let them know you pulled it off. We used to have some guys who was like, yeah, but I don't want to bother him. I'm like, you're not bothering him. Just let him know you did what you said you were going to do. He's like, well, didn't he just expect I would? I was like, you think so, but most people, maybe not. So just let him know, give him that completion photo. Hey, done. And that's when we would say, so fast their head spins. We love wowing people. And I think that's in your heart, right? And you sniff that out in new vendors, and what those attitudes are within an organization. Cause not everyone's wired like that. I get excited pulling off miracles.
Yeah, that's absolutely a fact. It's the part of the entrepreneur spirit that I have, that it's that curve, that steep learning curve and that change all along. And it's so exciting. It's the same thing a lot of times in property management or in the maintenance side, when you can really go out there and you can make it, a big impact. Because some people don't have high expectations of property managers. They've had bad experiences in
Yeah.
family or some other companies that they weren't wowed, as to use your term. And then we go out there and wow them and they're like, oh wow, they really did try to take care of us. So they're doing everything they
Like that was a basic, right? Because I think games are won on fundamentals and the basics. Doing the basics very, very well. So what is the one metric that matters, right? Like if someone could only track one thing. I mean, there's a lot of KPIs and systems. What is one metric you think really matters in the industry? And there might not be one, but I know it's a good stumper.
I look at, I still think resident experience is the one metric that really matters the most. And sometimes it's hard to quantify, but one of the biggest ways you can quantify it is renewal rate. I mean, if the maintenance department's doing their thing, people are renewing. I mean, you're going to have people that are buying homes. You're going to have people that are moving. You're going to have people that are, relocating, whatever's going on. You're going to have some of that for sure. But if you can minimize you didn't take care of me when I had an issue, that is impactful. Look at our Google reviews, and the trajectory of our Google reviews. Like I said, I think KPIs are important, but you also need to make sure that your KPIs are impactful and measurable, right? You have to be able to measure them. The resident satisfaction one gets a little tougher to measure, except in renewal. That's really what we want to drive. And if we can continue to drive our renewals, then I know my team is doing great. And I use other smaller KPIs. I look at cycle time. I look at the number of hours, the first time fixes. There's lots of things that we look at, and there's always a KPI du jour that someone comes up that we go to a meeting and you're like, oh, I hadn't really thought about that. Let me start, quantifying how often this happens. But if you look at it, is it really impactful? I mean, how is it impactful? It might be something that's interesting to keep in your back pocket, to talk about at a cocktail party. With other property management people, but what's really impactful? Let's get out there fast. Let's take care of the resident. Let's impact them as least as we possibly can. And then let's fix it the first time. Okay. And do what you say you're going to do every time.
Yeah.
And I want my vendors to do the same thing. If you're going to say you're going to be there on Tuesday, do it on time and do what you say you're going to do. And those are the big things that I think that impact the resident the most. But if I have to boil that down into a KPI, it's renewal.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. And I know there were, we didn't have any unique flooring problems that no other flooring company had, right? So, and any vendors that you guys are using or were using, we're all at about the same level. So it's not about also, I think this is really good to understand, is that operators like yourself are not going to put all their eggs in one basket with one vendor. So going in and thinking, hey, I'm gonna go get all their flooring work. I'm gonna go get all their electric work. I'm gonna get all their plumbing work. That doesn't tee you guys up for success. Number one, I I also think it's very important that your vendors are working together on innovation. That they're, at some of these conferences, I would go and meet with some of my competitors and say, hey, what are some of the challenges you guys are seeing? What are the challenges? If we had some like challenges, we could come together as vendors, right? And work with you guys. So we're all part of the team. So know that as a vendor, they're not going to put their eggs all in one basket, and work with your competitor in the other space because to deliver on the resident experience. I know during COVID, we ran out of pallets. There was materials sitting out on the water. I called RM Interiors. I said, hey, my material's still out on the water. Can I get a pallet of this from you? He'd be like, yep. He's like, by the way, can I get 2 rolls of carpet from you? Yep. Because at the end of the day, our job was to deliver for the customer and the resident. And that was it. And then we would figure it out and we'd work together. I think that's a good point too, is working together with a painter. We go in and we're doing flooring. Painters are in my way. Ask them to move. How long are they going to be? Don't bust the job, right? Like this is a different mindset in SFR BTR. This is not retail. This is not multifamily. Yeah. This is not commercial. This is a different asset class, and you've got to put a different lens on.
Mm-hmm. No, I absolutely agree. And just sharing those ideas between the vendors or just between my individual markets too. So something worked in Dallas, it might be working in Jacksonville. There are some differences between Florida and Texas, obviously, but there's some certain things that, hey, I did this and this seemed to work. Fantastic. Let's go ahead and share that. So I have my regional manager meeting, make sure that we do meet weekly and we do have conversations and everybody gets to speak in the meeting. We, and I encourage that. I foster that. I try to share that through our Slack channels or through emails or just through sharing. We have our maintenance coordinator meetings as well. So make sure that all the maintenance coordinators, not just at the market level, but all of our maintenance coordinators are together, and they can speak and say, hey, this worked for me, or that didn't work for me, or I need help. Does anybody have any idea how I can handle this? That's the, that collaborative effect that everybody can get together. You can talk, you can work through things. And then when you leave the room, you know what to do. You can kind of move out of there. And not everybody has to have the answer. You can ask questions. We all work together, trying to get to the common goal.
All right. So we're here at the top of the hour. So before we close, we always end with inside the vendor network the same way. First thing, so we're going to do the lightning round. So first thing that comes to mind, one leadership lesson you learned the hard way.
One lesson I learned the hard way. That's a tough one. Probably have to be, not everybody has the same value and discipline that you have. I think you have to not bend in your values and your discipline and make sure that you're always doing the right thing when you say you're going to do it.
So I think that you just answered the next one, which is one standard you refuse to lower your values on in this.
Oh, yes. Just do what just say what you're going to do and then go out and do it. Just execute. You're not always going to be perfect, but you, as long as you're trying and you're going down that path, you can actually get a lot of grace from people when you do make mistakes if you're really trying to do the right thing, and they know that you're trying to do the right thing.
If a young operator is watching this, what's one piece of advice you'd give them?
Learn. So I would say read, learn, work, and then once you've got a little bit of experience, then challenge the norm, then challenge the system at that point. But get the understanding of why you do what you're doing. Don't always accept because we've always done it this way. It doesn't mean that it's wrong, but it doesn't mean that it's right. But if you just come in from, you don't have any experience and you just want to challenge things because that's who you are, you're probably not going to go far. But if you just take the time to learn and to work a little bit and to do the hard things, sky's the limit.
Finish this sentence. Maintenance is not blank.
A cost.
It is
a benefit. That's the way I look at it. That's kind of where my head, I'm about to, keep going in that path, but it's doesn't have to be a profit center. You don't have to be ripping down 100% margins, but it's not a cost. It's a benefit to the residents. And, look at your renewal rate. I'm going to go back to that too. You take care of the residents, they want to stay.
Bill, what kind of legacy are you building?
I don't know. I never don't really think in those terms a lot of times. Um, if they're talking about just me personally, I hope that people that get to know me and people that spend time with me understand that I'm an unselfish leader, and that I want people around me to be better and to be be the best they possibly can. It's not just a slogan. It's not just it looks good on a poster. I actually truly believe that I want the people around me to be better. And if I can help people above me and people below me to be better, then that's what matters to me. I don't necessarily think in terms of legacy. Probably should, but I just unselfish leadership, servant leader is probably where I want to be if somebody had to
Agree with that.
take a legacy.
I think you're well ahead of that, and I think you're creating a legacy of unselfish leadership, standards with unselfish leadership. So I want to give you the final word. If operators and industry leaders only remember one thing from this conversation today, what should it be?
I think it's discipline, and just understand that your standards and your company's standards they're not optional. They're not options for you, right? They're standards for a reason. Standards are supposed to be there to make sure that you're taking care of the things that you're supposed to be taking care of, and it's not just a matter of understanding, what your key performance indicators are. It's what makes those key performance indicators important and impactful. If they're impactful, then it becomes a standard and you drive your business by that, and don't use as I said before, the KPI du jour, the one thing you heard at the conference
I
somewhere.
love that.
How does that impact you? How does that really going to impact the resident experience? How's it going to impact your renewals? How's it going to help you, lease these houses, lease your vacants? How is it going to help you do things faster, better, quicker? That's what really matters. And if you focus on the resident, I think that's going to be your biggest win. If you can figure out how to fix the issue as quickly as possible to minimize the impact to the resident, and take care of them, get them back into that space or to the house as quick as possible, and try to make them happy. It's disruptive. It's hard. And if you don't have experience, it's hard for somebody that has experience like I do or like you do. But if you don't have this experience, it could be a little bit traumatic. You've upset the family dynamic. The kids are crying. They have to stay in a hotel. If you can minimize that as much as possible and really concentrate on taking care of the resident, that's how you're going to grow your brand. If you keep that resident focused, grow your brand that way by doing the right thing every time.
When your teams perform better, residents feel it. And in every decision, each and every one of us make, I don't care your title, I don't care your role within the organization, every decision in that organization matters. And your resident feels every decision made by every person in the organization. So,
I'll probably get this wrong, but there's a saying that's out there that, people don't care what you say until they know that you care. And if you're doing that and you're trying to take care of the resident, and they know that you're really trying and you're communicating and doing the things you said you were going to do, then they know you care. And then they really care what's going on with you. And then that's when they feel it. And that's when they stay.
I just had another property manager on this show a couple weeks ago, and he said that same statement, and it's true. It's an oldie, but it's a goodie, and it's a basic, right? So, reliability, it's what builds long-term relationships and portfolios. Bill, thank you for sharing both the standards and the strategy behind what you're building. This conversation, I think, reinforces something important, that maintenance is not overhead, it's infrastructure. And when discipline meets resident experience, renews follow. And if you like to connect, if any of the audience would like to connect with Bill, he is on LinkedIn, or learn more about Brandywine Homes USA, go out to their LinkedIn and Facebook pages, Instagram pages. Brandywine's always participating in the community. You can see ways that they're doing those things as well. But you can find Bill on LinkedIn, go over there, find him, connect with him, say hello, give him some feedback. He'll also be inside the vendor network. And the page when we post this episode, post your comments below. And a final thank you to our sponsor again, Palisade Wall Panel and Shower Systems, trusted by operators across SFR and BTR portfolios for faster installs, cleaner turns, and long-term durability. If this episode added value, please take a moment, subscribe, like, and share it with anyone in your network or someone in your network. Thanks for tuning in. I am your host, Yovonne Kenny, and we'll see you next time on Inside the Vendor Network. Follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and let's keep the conversation going. Right, Bill?
Absolutely. It was a pleasure. Thank you very much for inviting me.
You are so welcome. Thank you, and thank you to our audience.